us this wonderful opportunity and this great platform. A hearty welcome to all our friends, well wishers, and cheerleaders. It is great to be face to face once again with the legend, Ramendra Kumar. And hats off to you once again for your resilience, grit, and tough. And I keep saying that everywhere.
Thank
And
you.
yeah, and let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. I have all fascinated by Alice in Wonderland, and of course the characters in the adorable book. And I always keep quoting from the book. And in the conversation between the disoriented Alice and the mysterious Cheshire cat in that alternate reality, Alice asks the cat, "Would you tell me, please? Would you tell me, please, which way I ought to go home?" In that direction, in that direction, the cat said, waving its right paw around, lives a hatter. And in that direction, waving the other paw, lives a March hare. Visit either you like, they are both mad. So, so Ravi, if you can hear us, and our friends, if you can hear us, if you can hear the Mad Hatters, we are all mad here. And the Cheshire Cat further goes on to say, we are all mad here. I am mad, you are mad. So, this is an honest confession. Ramendra Kumar is as mad as I am. And in this book, we have poured our madness. We have gone berserk. And apart from that wacky streak in him, Ramendra Kumar is a writer by passion, a storyteller by obsession, a mentor by aspiration, a communicator by profession, and a dancer. He is a great dancer, and a dancer by inspiration. I cannot dance on us. I have two left feet. And his family, he says, his family thinks he's insane. He calls himself Ramen. And can you believe it? He has authored 42 books, and his writings have been translated into 30 languages and have found a place in several textbooks and anthologies. He has also been invited to literary festivals held in Greece, Denmark, Sharjah, as well as Indian events such as the Jaipur Literature Festival. Well, I too claim to be a writer, but family, alas, thinks otherwise. Yes, I try to write. I am a writer of sorts. So, Raman, let us show the book to all the naysayers in my family who think that I cannot write. So, and I want to prove those naysayers wrong. So, here is the cover of our book, the melange of mavericks and mutants.
Melange of mutants and mavericks. Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
And the cover has been designed by Avajit Sarkar, and he has also written the introduction. And the foreword has been written by Dr. Ampat Koshi, and it is also a very, very well written introduction and a great foreword. So, this is a wonderful book. I don't want to praise myself. I don't want to, but I want all of you to read this because it is crazy stuff. Okay, Ramendra, uh, I would want you to tell us something about your writing career. When did your writing career begin?
I started, first of all, good evening, guys. Thanks for joining in. And I hope that you will enjoy our chit chat as much as we will enjoy having you here. So I started rather early. I wrote my first poem when I was in class 3 or 4. And encouraged by my dad, I continued writing a little bit of poetry and some short stories, all of which were rather terrible. My first real attempt at satire was in College of Engineering. I was the cultural secretary, and during the campaign, I had slammed the party which is to the left of the center. I was in exactly at the center, but I had a huge ideological difference with the party which is left to the center. I'm sure you can imagine which party. And I had talked during my speech. I had slammed their ideology, their fascination for color red, give me red and all that, and their kind of attitude, of resorting to violence, barrel of a gun, whatnot, and all that. So they were just waiting for an opportunity. Had I lost the elections, I would have been beaten black and blue. But luckily, I won with a huge majority, the largest majority in the entire university campus, where you've got lots of colleges. So they couldn't touch me. They were waiting for an opportunity. So a satire of mine was published in the college magazine of which I was the editor. It was titled "The Unfair Sex." Now, it basically was a ripoff on the fairer sex. the ladies. It was just completely tongue in cheek, and it was full of kind of humor and all that, which was completely harmless. But the people who were to the left of the center, they thought by sex I meant the birds and the bees. Hey, hey, such a bad boy. In the college magazine, he's writing about sex and possibly Kama Sutra and birds and the bees and all. He's a product of bourgeois culture, the American culture, and he should be slammed. So they took out my processions in the campus with my mugshot on a placard. Luckily, we didn't have social media then. And they started shouting slogans against me and all. And the copy of the magazine was burnt at every college campus. That was the first street corner sati. Salman Rushdie happened 4 years later in 1988. So I claim ownership to the first street corner sati. So that's how I started writing my satire and continued for some time despite the brickbats and all till I shifted to children's literature, which is another story.
That is very, very, very interesting, very intriguing fact. And you are a wonderful writer. I have almost read all your satirical essays and many of your books too. So, and I don't know whether you know that I have read all your books, many of your books, in fact. And you are a wonderful writer, and you write with an effortless ease. Your tongue-in-cheek humor, your incisive wit, that is commendable indeed.
Thank you. And the way you keep writing, I think you must have started writing in the previous birth. So when did the writing bug bite you in this birth?
Anyway, I honestly speaking, it never bit me. There was a girl in the sixth standard who bit me, and I was so jealous of her. I was so jealous of her because she came from Mumbai and she used to speak English with a quaint sort of an accent, and she would write something in her diary, sitting in the last bench, and she did not know Hindi at all, and I taught her Hindi, and I asked her one day, "What do you write?" She, with an arrogant toss of her head, she said, "I'm writing a limerick." I did not know what a limerick was, and I did not want to ask her what a limerick was, but I asked my papa, and then he told me what a limerick is. He introduced me to Edward Lear, and it was in the sixth standard that I started writing limericks, and there was a time when I started talking in limericks, and the students and the girls in the school, yeah, Sophia School, Jaipur, they would scurry for cover, Ani Santosh Bhago. So that was that age. So that I went on to write an entire ballad this ballad of Bapu in the limerick rhyme scheme AABBA. So that was the beginning, and then I switched over to essays and humor and satire and whatnot, poetry, and and I'm considering, and I'm still writing. And even while I'm talking, my head is writing. I am going to introduce you in one of my stories, Ramendra.
Yeah, you'll say something like, I love to write limerick, and Ramen is my sidekick." That's the kind of limerick I would like to write.
Yeah, I'm going to. I'm going to. Early in the morning, I'm going to do that and message the limerick to you. So, okay, Ramendra, I think the way you write and the way you talk, I don't think you have ever suffered from a writer's block, have you? Because you write in different
Yeah,
styles.
actually, I don't understand what is this. I'm a blockhead. Everybody knows that. But suffering from a writer's block, I don't really have never really suffered because what I do is I write in different kind of genres. I write poetry, I write prose, I write fables, I write folk tales. I write adult fiction. I write, of course, children's stories. I write sports stuff, and I write biographies, and all. So whenever I get bored from a particular genre, I simply switch to another genre. So there's no question of being bored or being kind of suffering from a writer's block. I've never really suffered, and I'm quite sure no writer's block will come in your way. It'll simply be steamrolled.
Well, anyway, if you remember, I had given a TED talk on the myth of writer's block. I believe it is a myth. I have had many heated discussions on this topic. Many of my students, many of my students in my creative writing classes, they say, "Madam, ho hi nahi tha writer's block to hota hai." Because I tell them I have never suffered from a writer's block. The plumber doesn't have a block. The electrician doesn't have a block. No one has a block. The engineers don't have a block. Why should writers suffer from this block? If you're a writer, you're a writer, you're a writer. You have to write. You have to keep writing. And the same thing. You write in different genres. Similarly, I too. I write essays. I have written biographies. I have written novels and novellas. So I have, honestly speaking, I have never suffered from a block. And maybe I'm also a blockhead like you because I keep writing all the time. When I'm not writing, even then I'm writing in my head. So as I said, I have never, and I believe that this is just a crutch. It's just a crutch for procrastination. If you're a writer, you have to be a writer. You have to keep writing. You don't stop.
It's
And
a 24/7. It's a 24/7.
exactly, exactly. Yeah,
Mania or passion.
yeah, it is a passion. You have to be जज्बा होना चाहिए. अगर आपके जज्बा है तो आपको कोई block नहीं आएगा सामने. You have to have the
Yeah,
passion for writing.
I totally
So,
agree.
yeah.
We can thrive on chaos. We can write in railway stations, in the airport, in the plane. I remember when I used to, my kids were young. I would be on the typewriter, sorry, on the this thing keyboard, and suddenly Ankita would come running and saying, "Dekho, Aniket mere ko maar raha hai." Then I would say, "Ani, why are you doing this?" She says, "You always support Anki, you never support me." And my wife would shout from the kitchen or from wherever she was that, your mother-in-law has rung up twice, you never answer her phones. And then suddenly some media guy would ring up and say, there's been an accident in the blast furnace. Only four people have died. So only four people have died. Amidst all this chaos, I used to write. Because otherwise, how do you manage to write? If you
Exactly,
start
exactly.
writing for inspiration, you get only perspiration.
Same here. I can always write anywhere. I was just the other day. I was saying that I have written everywhere in the plane, in the train, the buses, but not in a bullock cart. Maybe I'll write in a bullock cart also someday. But I keep writing all the time in
But if
chaos.
you are on the bullock cart, the bullock
Yeah.
would be writing about you.
So I'm writing all the time, and I don't suffer from any blockhead. Being a blockhead, like you.
Yeah. So, what triggers your? I really don't know. You must be having a million triggers, but could you, pinpoint any particular, set of triggers which get you started on this mania or passion or obsession called writing?
There are two personalities in my house, my husband and my daughter. They're always after me. They're always making fun of me, pulling my leg and all that. So to get back at them, I keep writing about them. And in fact, my this Din About Sins, the book that I sent to you, Din About Sins is all about my daughter. In fact, right from the time she was 5 years old, there are minutes about those things. And this is about my daughter, the tongue-in-cheek humor that she has, and
Let me interrupt you here. Let me interrupt you here. But though you're famous for interrupting people, that is one book where I cried and I loved, and I cried throughout. It was so heart touching and yet so rip tickling.
you've read it. You read the
Yeah,
book.
F complete book, and I loved it, and I loved that combination of a little bit of humor, or rather lots of humor, and those moments of endearment, which kind of tug at your heartstrings like nothing else.
So, yes, and everything, each word in that book is right. It's not fiction. It's not even exaggeration. And especially when she shifted to Delhi 3 years back, I think. So I was very distraught. So I have ended there, I think. The that is the epilogue in Din About Chin. So these are the two figures. My husband and I have written many humorous essays on my husband Lalit, who must be listening to this in the other room. And you have also read those essays. And then nature is my trigger. I have written nature poetry a lot. And then if there is injustice anywhere in the world, in any part of the world, then my pen goes berserk. I start writing, and there's no stopping me. And
Empathy
right
is your
now,
middle name. I know that when I was fighting cancer, you were with me or with my family, you were in touch with me or my family on a day to day basis. Empathy, Dr. Santosh Bakaya, is your middle name.
I, I wear my heart on my sleeve. And I have hardly any head. I have only heart. So that is very obvious at times. Even in my writings, it's reflected. And you read my morning meanderings, and these morning meanderings are not a figment of the imagination. The laborers, those people, how they live in those shacks, and their tiny joys, and I wrote poem, that serendipitous gleam in the rat picker's eye, it became a sensation, and it came. It was, it became viral long time back, and it kept coming back to me in WhatsApp messages and anonymously. People did not know that I had written it. That was long time back. The serendipitous gleam in the rat picker's eyes when he found an uneaten apple in the dumpster. So everything around me is a trigger. So
Yeah, what I love the most about your writing is how you make, how you draw out the extraordinary from the absolutely mundane and ordinary. We all see those scenes. We all see the Gupchup fellow or somebody, stopping the car somewhere to answer the nature's call, or a scene in the
it
bus
is
or
so
on a
real.
train.
So
We all
real.
see those things. But to draw out humor and emotion, you're a past master at that.
I so the scene is so etched in my mind. She was in the 12th standard, I think, my daughter. She was going to write her exams at the and this car stopped in the middle. It was still a traffic jam, all because of the fact that a very, very important person had to answer the call of nature, and two guards from one side, two guards from the other, they followed him to the wall, and he answered that call. So it was all because of that. So, and I wrote it while the scene was there, right in front of us, and my daughter was grumbling away from the passenger seat. So all these the things happening around me, they are there, and I keep writing. And that essay is there in this book. So okay, Ramendra ji, your family. Let us hear something about your family. How has your family influenced your writing?
Uh, my dad, I would call him my God, my Khuda. He was the first person to inspire me. When I was just, like I said, I wrote my first poem when I was just 7 or 8 years old. And he encouraged me from then. And as long as he was there, he was the first person to read whatever I wrote. And after writing satire for quite some time, I was kind of banned by the management to indulge in satire because I work in a public sector which reports to the government. At that point of time, my daughter was 4, and my son had just happened. My wife Madhavi, my gorgeous, beautiful wife Madhavi, who also worked in the same steel plant as I, her hands were full. Just born baby and a 4-year-old daughter. So she encouraged me. She inspired me with her motivational words. She said, "You're such a useless fellow. You can't sing lullabies. You can't boil an egg. You can't run a washing machine. You are useless in everything. You think you're a great writer. Not that you're a great writer. You think you're a great writer. So why don't you tell Ankita stories and keep her engaged while I look after Aniket?" So I used to write satire. So she thought moving from the realm of the satire to the realm of children's writing was like moving from poaching an egg to boiling it. So, but anyway, I had to take it up as a challenge. So I thought of telling her stories. But I didn't want to tell stories from the Panchatantra, Tenali Raman, and all. I started cooking up my own stories. And she simply loved them. Ankita simply loved them. And the stories which she liked the most moved on to the word processor, from the word processor to the editor, from the editor to the magazine, printed page or digital. And that's how I became a children's writer. Entirely, the credit goes to the inspirational words of my wife and the encouragement from my little princess, Ankita. Then Aniket
Hats
also
off,
joined the bandwagon. So I had an audience of two, plus my canine Aryan. So three, they would listen to my stories first.
hats
And
off to your family, and hats off to you.
yeah, and another thing is I have written poems on all these, my family. Like on my dad, I've written 3 poems. On my wife, I've written 3 poems. On my daughter and my son, and they used to be made to order. I would decide that, like, 4th August was my wife's birthday, and the last 5 6 months, our entire family has gone through hell. I've suffered from 4 septic shocks, 4 major surgeries, chemo, radiation, 40 days in ICU, and a 17 kg weight loss. And through all this, my wife stood like the proverbial rock. So on her birthday, I wrote a poem. With your
That's
permission, I'm going to share it.
yeah, that's a beautiful poem, very poignant. I cried right
I
off.
called it rocking, my rocking angel. As I lay down and almost out in the isolation ICU, my senses totally smothered, and my entire body almost blue. The doctors had given up, having tried their best. But to you, Madhavi, I was life itself, not an itinerant guest. Before we had lived our dreams, how could you let me go? I was forever your bestie in every high and every low. You gave me your strength. You virtually took on death with the weapon of your faith. You battled for my every breath. You fought many a battle, won for me many a war, nursing my every wound and healing my every scar. Now, as I march steadfast on the path of recovery, with you, my rocking angel, the epitome of bravery, I thank the Lord above for making you mine and giving you the courage that is truly sublime. When I look around and see lives which are in a tangle, I know my being is safe with you, my rocking angel.
This is such a touching poem. I cried while going through it, no? And it's a beautifully written poem, straight from the heart.
It's almost as beautiful as my wife, I think.
Yeah, of course. And I have
Almost.
to say, and her voice is beautiful. Her laughter is beautiful. Tell her that she must be listening. And she's got a very lyrical laughter, lyrical voice, and I think she sings beautifully.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's a beautiful singer too. Great. So uh, I would. Are you saying something? I mean, are you saying something?
Yeah,
Go.
I wanted to ask you one thing.
Yeah.
In all this, roller coaster of a life which you have had, what has been your most memorable experience among the many you've had?
Well, there have been many memorable experiences, but I like to talk of one, and it never leaves my mind. And I think you have also heard of this. I was there at the South City Festival, one of the delegates in the year 2017 here in Jaipur. And my name was there in the brochure, Santosh Bakaya. And there was this man, he had come from, I don't remember which place, but he was standing there with a jhola, and he was continuously looking at me. I was talking to someone, but this guy was looking at me continuously. Then he came up to me very diffidently and asked me, "Are you Taslima Nasreen?" I was very embarrassed. I said, "आप क्या बोल रहे हो ये?" तो कहते नहीं नहीं आप हो कोई आप तो कोई हो. I I stuttered for some time. I did not know where to look and what to say. Then he pulled out the brochure from his bag and he said, "ये संतोष पकाया है आप." और then he pulled out three books from his bag and there were three copies of Ballad of Bapu. And he had come all the way from some place with those three copies because he knew I was there at the South Sufi Festival and he wanted my autograph and three copies of Ballad of Bapu. So I was tears when he out those books, and I autographed the books for his wife, for him, and for his daughter. And he is still in touch with me. He keeps calling me off and on. And that was the most memorable experience. And also the fact that this Ballad of Bapu, because it was written, the entire book was written in the rhyme scheme of AABB. It appealed to many people, and it turned many detractor into a Gandhian. That is also very memorable for me. And also the fact that Tushar Gandhi ji was, he liked it so much that he wrote the foreword in the form of poetry. So Tushar Gandhi ji has written the foreword
That's
in the
wonderful.
form. So that is something that is very close to my heart. Okay, so this was about me. So Ramin, there are certain characters, there are certain people you meet on the wayside or somewhere, and there is something very repulsive about them. There are certain people you feel very close to. So what puts you off in people? I do not like grumpy people. I do not like people without a sense of humor, and I do not like blabbermouths. But what is it that you don't like?
Yeah, exactly the same. My top of the hit list is someone who doesn't have humor, who lacks humor, who believes that gravity is more important than levity. And one
Exactly.
among them is my sister's husband, my Jijaji. With due respect to him, he's a very serious person. Had he been around in the time of Newton, he would have discovered gravity without the help of the apple. He's such a serious person, and he keeps, telling me that what is this? You are always indulging in this kind of humor and all that. Nobody would take you seriously. You are behaving like a child. And then I told him that that is the greatest compliment you can pay to me, because I wish I would remain a child for the rest of my life. And I wish people around me, the entire world would be childlike. Then we wouldn't have this kind of a mess we are in. That is the greatest
Exactly.
compliment you paid
Exactly.
me.
Same
And
here.
then when
Same
I'm
here.
fighting cancer, I'm now fighting cancer. I started during after my radiation. I posted a dance video, went for Zoom sessions, and filled social media with fun-filled messages and all. And he rang up my wife Madhvi and told her, "What is this? He's ये cancer जैसी बीमारी का मजाक उड़ा रहा है. Does he not know he's making fun of death? If he continues like this, he's going to die in bits and pieces." So my answer was that no, I'm suffering from colon cancer. I said no colon cancer can put even a semicolon to my humor, and I'll continue fighting every adversity with my mantra of battling every tumor with humor. So I hate people who are serious. Secondly, hate people who are hypocrites. They would,
Exactly.
especially in corporate circle, they will suck up to their bosses and bully their juniors. And I hate people who don't have empathy for the environment, empathy for the old people, empathy for the children, empathy for the marginalized. I hate those people.
Same here. Same here. You have to keep a child in you alive, and people kill that child at birth, I believe, and that's why they don't look around at the child's eye. Juvenile glee is very important in life. They have been due to that. So I hope you're not running for it. Yeah. Okay. Uh,
So now I would like to read out from one of your poems. I mean, in this book, Melange of Mavericks and Mutants, there is a article or a satirical or humorous piece of ghosts and epistolary love. Seriously speaking, I had to consult a dictionary that what does epistolary mean. And I'm very sure that had Rojit of Rojas Thesaurus been here, he would have committed suicide. Just being completely humiliated or humbled by Dr. Santosh Bakaya's incredible vocabulary. And to give you a glimpse of that, this is a story told in the form of a poem. And what a fantastic rhyme scheme of ghosts and epistolary love, right? This is the story of my school times when I got hooked not on drugs but on rhymes. My thoughts in the form of poetry unfurled around me, metaphors and similes uncurled. My head buzzed, busy like the busiest bee, it still does, scribbling love notes under the school tamarind tree. When naively my heart for him on paper I poured. With poetic superiority, my dream boy roared. When my sublime feelings ran pell mell, alas, the brute called it a pathetic doggerel. Fuming and frothing, he reprimanded me, mocking me as I sat hunched under the tamarind tree. With his verdict, I wanted to disagree, but kept mum under the shade of the tamarind tree. In a voice laced with sullen savagery, he critiqued the heartfelt imagery. My feelings are so genuine, to him smacked of saccharine. The metaphor could be better, said the bloke, returning the letter. I would call him a son of a bachelor. But my feelings stood, bending down on one knee before the girl who sat under the tamarind tree. He had nothing but contempt for my love notes. You are no good, he said. I shamefacedly quote. An nincompoop that I was, pathetically meek. I told myself that his remark was tongue in cheek. He felt strangulated, though my verse was free. My wounds I licked under the tamarind tree. Just one second. Throwing away the mushy poetic stuff, wiping a silent tear with my shirt cuff. My feelings had been so ruthlessly derided. My feelings had been so ruthlessly derided. Never again to love a poet, I decided. Never again would a rhymester stir any simile or metaphor in any teenager writing love notes under the tamarind tree. Lovely, lovely, lovely.
and this is not a fertile. This is not this is real. This is real.
I hope Lalitji knows about it.
He knows. He is listening in the other room. He knows about it. And do we have time to? I would also like to read something from your.
I think we still have a few minutes.
Yeah, okay. So I'm going to read from your Indian Riot Service. I really loved it, and the satire and the satirical punch and that. So the Indian Riot Service. Ravi, I really love this. And just a few paragraphs from this. What is Paresh doing? I asked my friend Neeraj when we ran into each other in our company's canteen. Paresh was Neeraj's 24-year-old son. He has joined the IRS. Wow, he has got into the Indian Revenue Service. That's great. No, no, you are mistaken. Then it must be the Indian Railway Service. That too is pretty good. After all, you always thought Paresh was a poor student and wouldn't be able to do much in life. Ramen, you've got it all wrong. He has joined IRS, meaning Indian Rising Service. What the hell is that? It is a specialized course for 2 years, which teaches you the art and science of organizing riots. Are you serious? But what use is all this? You're quite naive, aren't you? In India, we have elections around the year, and if any party wants to grab the advantage, it has to engineer a riot and blame it on the opposition. And you can't leave the happening of a riot to chance, can you? How does how does all this work? Okay, take the example of Andhra Pradesh. It is going to polls a few months from now. The best way for the opposition to dent the image of the ruling party is by making sure riots break out all over the state. They approach the alumni of IRS and ask for a riot to be engineered. The terms are then worked out. Costing depends on the number of rioters, the ammunition to be used, whether bites to be given to the media or not, and the inherent danger of getting caught. Is Paresh happy doing all this? He is loving it. You remember last month's riot in Gaja Pradesh? Two communities fought over a donkey. Two persons were killed, 13 injured. A petrol pump was set ablaze even while the donkey escaped. This was engineered by Paresh. He carried out this sublime exercise for his practical exam and he got full marks. And remember, you also get full marks for this. What you have written. It made me guffaw so loudly. And my husband had to come and ask me, what are you laughing at? So this is beautifully written.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
I think we have still a couple of minutes to ask you something.
Yeah, I would like to ask you one question, which I think most viewers would be interested in, is what is your advice to budding writers?
Okay, this is very, very important because I have noticed that the writers, the promising writers, the budding writers, they don't want to read. They don't want to read. It is very, very important to read. They don't want to read the classics. They said classics कौन पढ़ता है. So Dickens और Hardy वगैरह आप नहीं पढ़ोगे तो कुछ नहीं रखा. So keep reading. That is very, very important. Keep writing. And I have also come across certain youngsters who have joined certain groups on Facebook, and they just come and post a poem, disappear, and they don't read the others. Unless they read the others, they'll not they'll not know how to write. They'll not know where they lack, what they lack. So reading is very important. I'm doing it all the time, the good, bad, and the ugly. And slowly you'll get your moorings. And another thing, don't be in a hurry to get your things published. My books have been lying around, written books, edited books lying around for the past 2, 3 years, and I have this knack of writing on, working on 7, 8 manuscripts together. But I take my time. I'm not in a hurry to get them published. And even they say that a comma can be very suicidal. Even a comma, misplaced comma, or a punctuation mark. So this is very, very important. That I have seen youngsters very, very in a haste to get their works published. It should not be there. And moreover, don't be ever disappointed by rejection. Always try to look for the silver in the gray clouds. So this is my advice, or whatever you think, for the youngsters. And would you like to give some advice
I
to
would
the
say
youngsters?
that apart from read, write. The
Yeah,
other thing is don't write for the market.
yeah,
Don't write to please your mother-in-law if you have one. Write for yourself. Because if you're not happy with what you have written, nobody else would be. Second thing, keep your eyes, ears, and all senses open.
yeah.
Because the
That is
ideas
very
are flying all around. Anything and everything can spark an idea. Our conversation, which we are having now, something you've heard in the bus, a scene in a movie, a dialogue in a web series, the caress of a parent on a child's forehead, anything and everything. So keep your eyes and ears open for these ideas and speak on your phone. Whatever idea that comes to you, you can store it on your phone. You have that advantage now, which our generation didn't have. Or keep a notebook and don't wait for inspiration, like I keep on saying. Make it a regular habit. And like Santoshji said, don't be crazy about getting published, getting famous and all. Everything will come if you're good. But first be true to the art and craft of writing.
Exactly. Very well said. This is very, very important for all the youngsters out there. So it was indeed wonderful interacting with Ramendra Kumar. He is a legend, and I keep saying this wherever I go that Ramendra Kumar is a legend. Hats off to you once again for your resilience and gumption and grit, and keep writing. And thank you very much, Work TV and Ravi, for this excellent platform. Thank you, friends, well-wishers, friends also, some friends or some friend enemies, they call themselves. They will also be there watching this. So thank you very much. A huge thank you to all our friends, well-wishers, cheerleaders, and a huge thank you to Ramendra. And despite everything, he has that Cheshire grin on his face and keep that insanity alive. Thank you, Ravi, once again. Thank you, Work TV, once again. Thank you.
Thank you, Santoshji. Thanks a ton. It was a great supercalifragilisticexpialidocious experience for me.
Thank you. Thank you. And keep smiling, keep